Lords and ladies, I welcome you to Age of Empires University. This is the start of a new series born from the voice of the people. I've had a few different people ask that I start a series where I analyze recordings sent in by different students from around the world, and we can go through them, see what they've done well, see what can be improved, and we can all learn together. And that is the point of Age of Empires University. Our student for this episode is in the teal here, Jester Corey, and as you can see, based on the elo, we are playing around the 850 level, so there could be a lot to go over here. So let's get this show on the road. Now, this is on Arabia. Arabia is the most popular map in Age of Empires 2, both at the low level and the high level, and probably in the middle level too. So this will be a good map to have our first lesson at the university. Now this is a Japanese mirror match. I do not know if these were random civs or if they were chosen, but we do have Japanese against Japanese. Not a common pick that you see on Arabia, but not a bad choice either. I'm curious to see how players at this elo decide to play this. If we look at the map here, our student here, Jester, has a pretty good map. He's got 1, 2, 3 different wood lines he can choose from. He's decided to go for this one. And with just a few short walls along this wood line, he can get some walls over here, either in front of his berries or incorporating them. If he can wall to the edge of the map, he has a really nice wall off. He's got his gold, he's got his stone back here, and then through the later stages of the match, he can wall up over here or wall however he wants on this side. He's got a very nice map to be defensive on. But if he so desires, wants to go for a drush or for man-at-arms and play aggressive, that would also buy him time to wall up his map and get his eco. We are seeing 4 villagers on wood. This is standard for an archer build order or a drush man-at-arms type of play. Now, one thing about the wood line, in order to maximize efficiency, you need to split up your villagers. Have half on one side and half on the other side. That minimizes the time that they are walking back and forth. Another thing with the build orders that most players know, whatever build order you're going for, you don't want to be building your houses with your wood village, because wood is probably the tightest resource going into feudal age, and these builds are very optimized. So you don't want to be using these villagers. You want to be using villagers under your TC. Like, have this villager go out, build a house, maybe somewhere as part of the wall, and then build the mill. But that's just a little thing to optimize. Just start keeping an eye on his scout, making sure not to lose it. It's very good. Don't want to lose your scout early on. Getting scouting information of what your opponent is doing is so important. Seeing him bring in his second boar now, and using the town center. That is a trick you won't see a lot of players below 1000 elo use. Because it does tend to be... It tends to use a little more APM than players below the 1000 elo range are used to using. But he did it quite well. And he's getting loom now, and it looks like he's going to try and click up on 19 pop. That's really ambitious. Looks like he's force dropping, and he's still not going to have enough food for it, but he's gonna try and force it. So just collect more from his villagers, force drop it, force drop all his villagers carrying. Okay, he actually changed his mind and made another villager. I would rather he forced it, to be honest. If you're going for a build where he's got his barracks up early, it looks like he's going to try and make some militia. Normally, if you're not going for early swordsman units, you'll see the barracks be put down halfway through Feudal Age. But he's got it up early, which normally would say he's going for militia units. And if that's the case, the timing is really important. And so I would rather he tried to brute force his way up rather than me. He's doing well walling up here. And what has he seen so far? He's scouted, pretty well his opponent's base, actually. He knows, where the gold is, he knows where the wood lines are, and he knows where the berries are. So he knows all the important information. So that'll give him a good plan of attack, of strategize where he wants to hit first. And in early Feudal Age, the berries should be your prime target. That's one of your opponent's most valuable resources, this food income. Because if you can deny that, then they have to invest into farms. They won't be able to afford, a blacksmith or another military building, and their military units will be not as powerful as yours. Looks like our red player is going forward with some militia. He's probably going to try and turn those into man-at-arms, just lacking a bit of food. And Jester's done well to wall up so far. Obviously, this area of his base is still pretty exposed, but he's walling up everything else quite well. And he's decided to go for a stable. And the stable against Japanese is a risky move. And the reason for that is if they go man-at-arms, their man-at-arms are going to be deadly. Japanese infantry attack 33% faster. And their man-at-arms could kill 1 or 2 villagers easily. They could even take good fights against early scouts. And so the point of going a stable and going scouts against Japanese is you're going to try and get to their base really quickly. You're going to try and harass their economy. And use short walls around your resources to keep your villagers safe from the man-at-arms. It looks like Jester is going to lose a vill here. He's trying to quick wall. Not quite able to do it. Oh, what the? Okay, never mind. Red Scout is gonna run away. I don't know if that was intentional from Red, but if not, I totally understand. Scout targeting, especially against villagers, just seems to be really broken at the moment. But Man-at-Arms is on the way for Red, and so long as he keeps these militia alive, don't run under the TC. Jester, you got a garrison. Garrison, do as much damage to these as you can before Man-at-Arms comes in. 1 goes down. Okay, 2. Okay, Man-at-Arms just thrown away. Completely wasted. The Man-at-Arms upgrade was completely worthless. Now we can see Jester going forward with a couple scouts trying to do some damage. And he was able to idle the villagers gathering berries, and he was able to see the archers. So he knows that archers are on the way. He's got a blacksmith up. And the early blacksmith is a play that you want to go for if you're going for archers. Because fletching is super important for archer units. Okay, he's gonna get a nice pick off here. That's a really good play. But when you're going for scouts, especially if you're going for a double stable, it's more important to get farms down. For the cost of a blacksmith, you can get 2.5 farms put down and get your food income rolling faster, and that means you'll be able to get more scouts on the field. And Yes, the armor on the scouts is nice from the blacksmith, but that's 150 food. That's almost 2 scouts worth of resources put into that. And early in Feudal Age, it's better to have the 2 scouts rather than the armor. Armor can come later in Feudal Age. You can afford to wait on that. So, that is something I would critique here, is going scouts, put down farms before your blacksmith. The blacksmith you can afford to wait on. Moving out now with his scouts. And he's just coming back, try and deal with these archers. Ooh, yeah, yeah. Not... That wasn't too great a fight. Yes, if you have that amount of scouts, you can take on a spearman. The rule with taking on spearmen with scouts is you want at least 3 times as many scouts as there are spearmen in order to take a good fight. But because of that, he did lose 2 scouts for spearmen and an archer. Going to lose another villager, and this house is only on 12 HP, so that's not going to go. It looks like he's trying to click up to Castle Age, but he's not going to have enough gold to click up by the time these units get in. So, honestly, at this point, make a couple scouts and just try and fight this off. There's only 3 archers and a spear. So, if you get maybe 5 scouts, you can take a good fight here. Oh, he's getting bloodlines before armor. This is a mistake. I'm just going to pause it here and go over this. Bloodlines before armor. Bloodlines gives your cavalry units plus 20 HP. And fletching, or no, scale barding gives your cavalry units plus 1 melee and pierce armor. And if you're against archers, it is better to get the armor before bloodlines. The reason for this is you can see these scouts, they have 2 pierce armor. So these archers have fletching, they do 5 damage into 2 pierce armor, they'll end up doing 3 damage to these scouts. If the scouts get armor, they'll only do 2 damage a hit. Which means they'll go from being able to take 15 shots with their 45 health, they'll be able to take 23 shots. That's a huge upgrade there. Whereas, if you get bloodlines, they'll take more damage from the archers and just have more health. In addition to that, bloodlines cost gold, which you don't want to be on gold until you're trying to click up to Castle Age anyway. Bloodlines is more of an upgrade to get either as you're going to Castle Age or right before you go to Castle Age. And I understand the eco's been set up to try and go to Castle Age quickly, but you've got to deal with the army in your base first. So use the resources you have, deal with this army. The best way to deal with the archers is to get armor first. You always want to get the armor before bloodlines if you're against archers. In other situations, that'll change, but against archers, get the armor first. Seeing the fight with 2 scouts, he's going to lose them to the spear. And now this wood line is in danger. Now obviously before anyone comments, oh, I watched a Viper video, or I watched Hera get bloodlines before the armor. Obviously, they're so much better, they know what they're doing. Yes, there are instances where you can get bloodlines first, and that's okay. But for this elo, get armor first. That's one thing to keep in mind. At university, we are trying to teach lessons based on the knowledge and skill of our students. I can't try to teach an 850 elo things that a 2k elo would need to learn. He's still trying to deal with these archers, and one more scout should be enough, but he really needs to group up his scouts. He's still got 2 over here. He's bringing forth now. And because of all this damage being done to the economy, Red has been able to wall up his base, and his eco's set up to click up to Castle Age. He can do it now, he just hasn't. Probably because he's microing this archer. But Archer's dead, now we should see Red up. And Esther will be a lot further behind. And that is one thing that players of lower elos tend to do that can have disastrous consequences, is they wall up their base and decide, oh, I don't need to make any more military units, I've made like 4 scouts, I'm fine. Generally speaking, going heavier in Feudal Age is better than clicking up early. The reason for that is if you stop making military units, anytime you stop making military units, you leave yourself vulnerable to enemy attacks. So let's say it's scouts against scouts, and you make 4 scouts, you stop making military, your opponent does not, and all of a sudden they have 7 scouts, they're able to clean up your army and then run around your base. And you have to invest more resources into fighting that off. You have to invest villager time into that, and it just puts your economy behind. So, it's better to make a few more military units than try and click up faster. The reason you want to click up faster is to get military advantage. Generally speaking, the main reason you click up faster is to get a military advantage. With archer play, that's to get bodkin arrow and crossbow. With cavalry play, it's to get knights on the field. So, I'd say just be patient. Make a few more military units just to be safe. And then click up when you know you have enough military to defend yourself. If you're not sure that you're able to defend if the enemy were to attack you, make a few more units. But he's doing quite well with these 2 scouts, getting a couple pickoffs. That's really nice. And I'm not sure where Red is going with this army. He's up to Castle Age, but has not gotten bodkin arrow, does not have crossbow. It looks like he's not really sure what to do here. And with the resources he has, he can drop 2 town centers, he can get bodkin arrow, he can get crossbow. But he's fallen victim to another mistake with advancing to Castle Age. He didn't make any units when he advanced. And if you have your economy set up correctly, you're able to afford constantly making units on your way up to Castle Age, so that when you get to Castle Age, you have a large army, you can upgrade it, and then you have a very scary force on the field. Red, he's got 9 military units. Most of them are right here, and he's not able to get through these walls. Instead, he's focused on putting another TC down. And TC here, I really don't like this town center. Now, granted, he's got a bit unfortunate with his map generation, and he's got a bunch of hills everywhere preventing him from placing a town center. But this town center doesn't give you access to anything. It doesn't protect anything. This is called a farming TC. But really, the only point of it is you can put some farms around it. Now, TC over here would be a lot safer. It defends your gold, it defends your wood, and you can still put farms around it. Okay, Red did manage to break in here. He's got 2 pikemen that went down, and still no armor for these knights. This is a danger with ignoring armor. Knights in Castle Age without armor die to feudal age archers. It's weird to think about, but they do. If you have maybe 10 archers, 10 to 15 archers, you can mow down knights that don't have armor. And he actually has the first attack. Again, this is another small mistake that lower elo players will tend to do. If you're playing cavalry and you're against archers, always get the armor before the attack. It's much better that your units can survive longer than they can do more damage. Because if you're against archers, you're trying to take a fight with them. Your main goal is to close the gap. Their units can hit you from further away. You're just trying to run up close and hit them. And if your units die before they can get close, they do no damage. A dead unit does no damage. So it's much better that you can close the gap with your knights, even if they get 1 or 2 hits. It's better than they die faster. We're seeing elite skirmisher on the field now. We're seeing a forward range and a forward siege workshop from red. This is going to be very wood intensive for our red player. He's on 3 TCs, so he's going to be dropping a whole lot of farms. He's going to be making siege. He's going to be making archers. That's a lot of wood needed to be invested here. Seeing an elite skirmisher now. Not a bad play against archers. They just lack mobility and lack damage output. You see these skirmishers with fletching, they only do 4 damage. Not a lot of damage at all. The only reason skirmishers are scary is their bonus damage against archers. But Teal is coming forward with a few villagers. It looks like he's trying to build a castle. Maybe on this hill would be a decent play. Maybe even forward would be okay. But it looks like he's running back to build another center. So another small critique here. Sometimes players will tend to put villagers on stone, like they're going to build a castle, and then don't build a castle. If you're having villagers mine stone, it's an investment. Instead of gathering wood or gathering food, they're gathering stone. That means your economy is going to be a little bit behind your opponent. If your opponent does not gather stone, your economy is going to be a little behind. And so that's an investment in order for you to get a castle down. Either as a defensive play, get your unique unit on the field, or as an aggressive play. But if you don't do either of those things, mining stone doesn't really do you anything. So, if you're going to mine stone, it's for a reason. That's something that a lot of players will forget. They'll gather stone because, eventually they want to do something with it. But if you're gathering stone, it's for a purpose, because you're naturally putting your economy further. Going forward to build a castle on this hill, I don't really like that. Put it on this hill. This hill's a little more forward, but it guards the gold. It gives you a great launching point for an Imperial Age attack. But this castle really doesn't do a whole lot. So I would have liked to see that a little more forward. Villager count. Jester is ahead by about 15 villagers, but he's getting a castle dropped on his face. He's coming back with the skirmishers. The skirmishers against Mangonel, not gonna work out too well for him. And this is the problem with skirmishers. Yeah, they're slow, their damage isn't great. I really would like to see a Cav Archer switch for Jester. They're Japanese cavalry archers. They get all the upgrades to them, and they also do bonus damage against archer units. So, Japanese cavalry archer are a good unit. They're faster, so they've got more mobility than the skirmishers. They also do more damage. And they're benefited by the same upgrades. So, if you've got the upgrades for skirmisher, you've got the upgrades for cavalry archer. We are seeing a push here from red. And the Jester's floating so many resources. Use the market. Sell some of that food, sell some wood, and click up to the Imperial Age. Like, you've got all the required buildings. You're just missing some gold. So get up quickly. Get a couple trebs out and treb this down. Samurai play now for red. Samurai will do very well against the skirmishers. And okay, let's go through what the thought process should be here. Or Jester. So far you've seen, okay, my opponent's been making pikemen. He's been making crossbow. I'm going to take in a skirmisher. Okay, now you see there's been a tech switch. You see samurai now on the field, and you see they've got full upgrades. What do you do in this point? Well, in this situation, you've got two options. You can either try to go up to Imperial Age and get a tech advantage, so you can get trebuchets on the field, you can go into hand cannons, or you try and fight this. And if the units are inside your base, if the enemy is inside your base, you gotta fight it off. Now, the best way to do that is to get military units on the field. I know, that sounds obvious and stupid, but that's just how you need to fight it. You can't afford to just sit in your town centers, sit in your castle. You're idling so much economy if you do that. So you need to fight this off. Now, how do you do that? Well, let's see what you've got working for you already. You've got skirmishers with, they have the second range and attack upgrade. You've got bodkin arrow. So that's what you've already got going for you. Can you use that? Can that be helpful for you? You can. This is one thing that a lot of low elo players will get a little scatterbrained and a little flustered. Think, oh, I'm against an army, I don't know what to do about it. Just stop and think for a second, what upgrades do I already have? And we can see all the upgrades up here. How can I use those to my advantage? Can I use those to fight this army? Or do I need to do a complete tech switch into a different unit entirely? And if you look at these upgrades, he's got bodkin arrow, he's got padded archer armor, and he's got bloodlines. That right there, that combination says to me, cavalry archer. Now, will cavalry archer do well against samurai? Yes. Yes, they will. They're faster than samurai, they can move around and you can micro and shoot these down. And samurai don't have a lot of pierce armor. So you gotta get cavalry archer on the field. Now, what's a weakness to cavalry archer? Well, you need quite a few of them. In order for ranged units to be effective, and for you to deal damage with them, you need a good mass of them. But you only got one range. You have a second one over here, but that's, in range of the castle, in range of the mangonel. You only have one range. You're not going to get a large mass of units on the field very quickly. So take some villagers and drop like 4 or 5 more archery ranges. You can afford it with all this wood. So drop some more archer ranges, get cavalry archer on the field, and fight this off, and you'll be just fine. That's the kind of thought process that lower elo players need to have. Okay, I'm against this army. What upgrades do I have that can help me out here? Like, go through the list. What units would be good against these? Like, hand cannons would be good, but you're not an Imperial Age yet. Archers would be good, but you don't have the crossbow upgrade, so that'll take a bunch of time. Scorpion would be good, but you need a lot of them. Cavalry archer would be good. Knights would be okay. And then out of that list, look at what upgrades you have. And use those upgrades. Because that's resources you don't have to spend on upgrading something else, and it's time you don't have to spend on waiting for those upgrades. So that is a key thought process you need to have. He's going to get this castle up. He's going to take out the mangonel. But now these samurai are on the field, doing some damage to the economy. Haven't killed a whole lot, but they're certainly idling the economy. These samurai in this gold mine would be disastrous. And now you've got the resources. Click up to Imperial Age. Alright, now villagers are dying. The mangonel went down, so all these villagers are in trouble. Okay, so you've got a whole lot of resources, and you're not making units, and not clicking up to Imperial Age. So the two things you do with resources aren't happening here. You've got a couple knights coming out on the field, but these knights are lacking a whole lot of upgrades, so these samurai can just shred them. And yeah, this is a common problem. That midway through Castle Age, thinking about going to Imperial Age, you've still only got 1 or 2 military buildings. Drop more of them. Get like 10 archery ranges, or 10 stables, or barracks, or whatever you want. Make a ton of them. Nothing bad ever happened from too many military buildings, but having too few military buildings can be disastrous. Looks like you made your own samurai. But still, they're lacking upgrades. Okay, finally! Clicked up to Imperial Age. Okay. Now we're talking. But the vill count has shifted. Now Red has quite a few more villagers than Jester does. Well, that being said, he's losing villagers, so that might shift once again. Alright, clicked up to Imperial Age. What are you thinking in terms of an Imperial army? You going Samurai? Are you going Cavalier? What's your plan here? Because whatever it is, you need the upgrades for it. And you have to get your Castle Age upgrades before you can get your Imperial Age upgrades. So while you're advancing to Imperial Age, get your Castle Age upgrades for whatever you want to go into. Okay, here's a second more forward castle. This is a really good castle. Especially if you think you're going to get up to Imperial Age faster. Because then you can get trebuchets on the field before your opponent. And this is a great pick-off here. Killing those 2 villagers means that castle's not going to go up. And those 2 knights also let you see the rams were here. So you see rams, you see samurai, you know he's going for your castle. What are you going to do about it? You need that castle to make trebuchets to kill these castles. Unless you want to bring them from all the way down here, which you do. But this castle protects your economy. That's really what you got, protecting your eco. But what are you going to do about it here? Up to Imperial Age, you're getting the second attack. Again, getting the attack for your melee units before the armor. Not the right play. Gotta get the armor first on melee units. You get the attack upgrade first for ranged units. So, archers, skirmishers, whatever. You get the attack first. For melee units, it's the other way around. Gotta get armor first. Okay, so now you're up to Imperial Age. What are you gonna do with Imperial Age? I'm seeing a mangonel, and I'm seeing a few samurai that are missing a lot of upgrades. And now you're fighting with villagers. I don't think that's going to be enough. This castle's still going to go down. Looks like the samurai are a bit scatterbrained, though, and they're not targeting the villagers, so Maybe this castle might stay up. It's gonna be very close. Okay, repairing now. Looks like you're just gonna keep it up. And that's crazy that stayed up, to be honest. Okay, now you're in Imperial Age. What's the game plan? You making trebuchets? Okay, you've got one. But now look at the vill count. 55. Good. Keep making villagers. You gotta have at least 100 villagers at all times. Obviously, in like feudal age, that's not feasible. But you know, as soon as you cross the 100 villager threshold, you gotta stay above it all the time. And if you ever drop below it, queue up a bunch more villagers. Ideally, you have at least 120, but you know, you get what you can. So now your eco's suffering. You have a whole lot of wood, but it's gonna be enough, I guess. Now, Red hasn't clicked up, even though he's got 3k gold in the bank. Use the market, man. There's nothing wrong with using the market to balance your economy. But because he didn't do that, one trebuchet is enough to level the entire town eventually. And his whole push up here stopped. So, it worked out. Yeah, I would say as you're going up to Imperial Age, there's a couple things to cycle through in your head. You've clicked up to Imperial Age, so you gotta think, how is my economy looking? You go through your vill count, you look at where your villagers are distributed on resources, and you think, okay, what army am I going to in Castle Age? What am I starting out with? And then you make sure your economy is set up to reflect that. You know, if you're going heavy into knights, you're going to have a lot more on gold and on food than if you were going heavy into rams and halberdier. So you gotta think through that. But aside from that, not bad. You know, there were some really good things. I was particularly impressed with the Dark Age and early Feudal Age from Jester here. He got the walls up exactly as he should have. And was able to go into Feudal Age with a setup economy for that. And that's super important. So that was very well done. And I hope that this has been instructional and things have been learned. And if this is a popular course on YouTube or on Twitch, then I will consider teaching more classes at the Age of Empires University. See you later.